London suburbia, home to millions of commuters, stretches for mile after mile. Much of it looks the same. But by this leafy tributary of the Thames, there's one house that looks a bit different. It's the home of one of Britain's leading environmental architects. Bill Dunster has a simple goal: a zero-carbon lifestyle. A lifestyle that produces no net emissions of carbon dioxide. One that neither contributes to global warming nor burns up non-renewable fossil fuels. In short, a possible answer to the biggest challenge of the 21st century.
And I hear the buses at 6 o'clock.
Bill started building his family home, which he named Hope House, in 1994 and has been tinkering with it ever since. He wanted to prove there was no need for more than 1/3 of Britain's total carbon emissions to be used in heating homes. After years of experimentation, he's just about done it.
At first it seemed an almost impossible technical challenge. When we started doing this house, I just didn't dream that we would actually be able to get to the point where we're nearly zero carbon or on the cusp of being zero carbon. I just didn't think it was possible.
Bill hasn't used specialised or advanced technology at Hope House. All the materials can be found at ordinary building suppliers. Most were actually reclaimed from local junkyards, reducing the embedded energy used to manufacture them. The entire south-facing elevation is double-glazed glass, trapping the sun's energy. During the summer, most of the electrical power comes from photovoltaic cells. During the winter, most comes from a mini wind turbine. When Hope House generates more power than it needs, it earns money by feeding the surplus to the grid. Hot water comes from solar-heated tubes, which provide nearly all the Dunster family needs during the summer. During the colder months, extra water heating comes from a wood pellet boiler. Burning wood generates carbon dioxide, but as trees absorb CO2 as they grow, it's a carbon-neutral fuel so long as you grow as much as you consume. One bag of these recycled wood pellets heats enough water for a week in winter. The result? A house that provides the amenities and comfort we're used to without warming the planet or making any big lifestyle sacrifices.
This overall sort of dream or this overall process is to find ways of achieving a high quality of life and having good time and having fun at the same time as having this zero carbon, zero waste aspiration. I think the message here is that the house is nothing special, we're nothing special, that there's no reason why everybody can't do this stuff.
Bill leads a zero carbon lifestyle because he believes we'll all have to before long. Since his first student project, he's devoted himself to proving zero-carbon living is not a dream. So, Bill practices what he preaches. His 30-minute commute to work is by electric van. Bill's office is located at the greatest architectural achievement of his career so far. Bedzed is a mixed development on a former sewage treatment site in a South London suburb. Completed in 2002, it's home to 250 residents and around 100 office workers. It's based on the same principles Bill proved at Hope House. Energy comes from photovoltaic cells and from a generator fueled by waste wood, which recycles the heat it produces to heat water. Waste water is treated on site with natural reed beds and recycled for toilet and garden use. The air conditioning system is powered by nothing more than the wind. Wind moves air around the buildings instead of electric fans. Incoming fresh air is warmed or cooled by a no-moving parts heat exchanger instead of energy-hungry conventional air conditioning units. Simple, low-tech, harnessing natural forces, a typical Bill Dunster invention, and these wind cowls have become his trademark.
Well, the idea was it's very difficult to hide them, and what we decided was to use them as a kind of outdoor sculpture park. It's intended to be a wind-responsive sculpture. It's twitching, it's turning. You're aware of the wind forces as they flow over the buildings. You're aware of which direction the wind's blowing in, and you kind of feel in contact with the environment.
These features mean BedZ residents use only 10% of the UK's average amount of energy to heat their homes, and half the average amount of water. Seriously green, but that doesn't mean Bill can't enjoy himself.
It's about knowing where to be functional and also knowing about where to have fun. There's no reason why all the wind cowls are painted different colours. We just felt like it. It entirely depends on the motivation of the guys on site.
Bill used to work at an architectural practice specialising in low-energy offices. But he began to see the basic problem less as individual buildings and more as our whole modern lifestyle. He saw us building our homes, workplaces, shops and factories all in different locations and spending much of our lives burning up carbon travelling from one place to the other. So, in 1999, he set up his own practice to pursue a more integrated approach.
It just seemed that modern life had got so dysfunctional and separate, and all the activities had been separated out into these different categories that it was causing enormous resource consumption, and at the same time it was actually giving a really low quality of life to the average UK citizen. So the idea was jump it all back up and see if you can get a higher quality of life by mixing all these ingredients back together again, and create more leisure time, no travel time, make it easier to get local food, recreate a sense of community.
So, as well as homes and offices, BedZ provides sports facilities, a social club, and on-site childcare. Residents have allotments to grow their own food. There are plenty of outdoor communal spaces for children to play in or office workers to enjoy a lunch break. BedZ has become an international showpiece of urban architecture. TV crews are regular visitors. These French architectural students have made a special trip here just to see for themselves what they've read about in so many articles.
I like the design. I like the fact that it keeps the new housing very affordable to people, and so that it's not like for rich people who feel like living more ecologically. It's for really anybody.
But not everything has gone to plan. BedZ was experimental, and experiments don't always work. The wood-fueled power unit, which used scaled-down technology for the first time, has failed, and BedZ is temporarily connected to the grid. The on-site water treatment unit is also having problems, proving harder to maintain than expected. More reliable replacement technologies have been found, and Bill thinks it'll only be a matter of months before BedZ gets back on its zero-carbon track. Bill has drawn his own conclusions from the fact that BedZ's biggest problems have come from the features with the highest technology.
The biggest lessons are, if you can keep it simple, it's going to be more robust, it's going to be cheaper to run, and it's going to last longer. And on balance, it's going to work better. So stay well clear of technical fixes. They really, really don't work.
Still, technical problems are simple compared to changing people's behaviour. For an average UK family, heating and powering their home accounts for only around a third of their annual carbon emissions. The rest comes from transport, mainly private car use, and from food miles, the fuel used to transport food long distances. Bill designed BedZ to make reducing car and food miles as easy as possible, but there are many more bicycle racks than bicycles. Bill still owns the only electric vehicle on site. Most residents still have their own petrol cars. Residents like Steve Tarbud. He was one of the first to move into BedZ. He moved there because he wanted to live an environmentally friendly lifestyle, but he knows he's not a model green citizen. His management job requires him to drive all over the country to visit clients, too far for an electric car, and to too many places to rely on public transport. So he burns up a lot of petrol in his private car. Steve accepts there are some aspects of his life he can't change, but is happy that living in BedZ has reduced his carbon footprint. He's got used to regulating temperature by opening and closing windows instead of turning a thermostat. Steve grows his own vegetables on his roof garden, something he never did or even considered before moving to BedZ. Bill has given every flat its own roof garden. The rest of Steve's food is delivered directly to his door from a farm only 65 miles away. Far fewer food miles than shopping at a supermarket, where produce is flown in from all over the world.
It's been just like living in any other house because everything is made so easy for you. You don't have to think about doing any of the recycling. It's all integrated into the house and integrated into the systems of the fabric of the building. So it's much easier to do. Much easier to live a green lifestyle here. It's no effort.
Guitar teacher Paul Thomas lives upstairs from Steve. Paul usually travels by bicycle, a perfect zero-carbon method. But sometimes a car is very useful, like when he takes equipment to a gig or visits his grandmother, too far away to cycle and inconvenient by public transport. BedZ has a solution. It's home to one of the UK's most successful car clubs. When he needs a car, Paul checks availability online and books one for as long as he needs it. The car club parking space is just a few steps from his front door. The minimum booking is 1 hour, but if he needs more time, Paul can extend his rental period from the car. Most city residents pay for cars that spend nearly all of their time parked and empty. Paul and his fellow BedZ Car Club members only pay for a car when they need one, and each shared car replaces 5 or more individually owned vehicles.
The thing for me which surprised me more than anything was the community, the sense of community living in BedZ. The architecture of the site has encouraged people to be more sociable. I've lived in London all my life, and I've never lived anywhere where I've made so many friends in such a short space of time. Living in an urban environment, I think that's one of the most valuable things in life, really.
Ordinary people who just want to live better lives, like Steve and Paul, are exactly the kind of people Bill is trying to convert. In fact, he finds many committed Greens a pain in the neck.
Serious, deep green people get a kick out of self-denial. And self-denial is the one thing you can't sell to the ordinary man in the street. You just can't do that stuff. Making these ideas palatable and easy to accommodate. They actually find it deeply offensive because they want to really struggle, and we think they're a lost cause. It's great to feel or to try to be part of the solution rather than just continue to be part of the problem. And it's that intellectual shift that we, and the pleasure that comes with that we really want to communicate. And that's probably our biggest selling point, actually. That's probably the real reason why most people do it. They don't do this to save money. They really don't. If anyone who thinks that people just go green to save money is mad. They do it because they want to get their heads in order, and there's a tremendous pleasure in working with natural forces rather than fighting against them.
Bill wants to give everyone a chance to try zero-carbon living. He applies BedZ's principles to all kinds of different scales and situations. His latest project, a zero-carbon kit house that could be cheaply and easily built from prefabricated units. He's also designed zero-carbon conference centres, tower blocks, even entire neighbourhoods. Bill has built many other zero-carbon developments, but 4 years after its completion, BedZ remains his biggest project. Despite all the attention it's generated, zero-carbon development is still far from the mainstream. You can see the evidence just a few hundred metres down the road from BedZ. Here, new houses are being built using minimum building standards. The insulation is 6 times less thick than at BedZ. BedZ is surrounded by the kind of commuter dormitory housing that's been going up for decades. Plenty of parking, but no public spaces, no facilities, little to stop carbon dioxide leaking into the atmosphere. For Bill, seeing yet more of these buildings going up is a daily source of frustration.
When the market offers people that, it's not because people want it, it's because it's in the volume house builders' interests to provide it. What we're trying to show is that we can genuinely give a higher quality urban space, higher quality lifestyle, by dumping these ideas and taking on these ideas. And if government officials don't understand that, or the industry doesn't understand that, I can't help them.
Bill spends much of his life trying to change the minds of the developers and construction companies, who he sees as the biggest obstacles to zero-carbon building. He tells them BedZ homes sell at a 20% premium to equivalent standard homes next door. He tells them his zero-carbon designs cost only 5 to 15% more to build, and with any economy of scale would cost the same. He shows them a waiting list of thousands of unsolicited inquiries to move into his zero-carbon housing. So why aren't they all building zero-carbon projects?
They don't want to change, and when you start to introduce change to an industry, it fights back. We've had the most ridiculous comments about how that none of this could be achieved. It's totally unrealistic, and it's just an idealistic vision. They come up with a whole series of reasons why you can't do it, and we have to come up with a whole series of reasons why we can do it.
400 kilometres southwest of London, on the waterfront of a quiet Cornish town, Bill's latest project. This riverside development has apartments, a cafe, craft workshops, a childcare centre and a dance hall. It features Bill's trademark wind cowls and on-site renewable power generation. Insulation is super thick. Outside wooden cladding is sustainable local cedar. Ceilings are made from reclaimed floorboards. Some of the windows are surplus BedZ stock. It's only weeks from completion, and Bill has come to meet the client for a site visit.
So we've got
He's still full of ideas.
The planner said, "Oh, do you really need all this stuff?
Yeah.
You know, why have you got it? Can I make it smaller?" And actually, it almost, look at it now, and it wouldn't hurt to have another couple of wind cowls on that roof.
Yeah.
When property developer Andrew Marston was looking for an architect, Bill wasn't high on his first shortlist. But talking to BedZ residents and hearing how much they enjoyed living there persuaded Andrew to hire Bill, even though his first impression was not a good one.
I thought of him as a very arrogant man, and that's how he came across initially. But as I've got to know him over the project, I think he's just awkward with people, and he has an awkward way, and then people don't see his visions always, or see things as clearly as he does. I think he's misunderstood. I think Bill suffers from seeing things very clearly, and this makes him slightly odd, because the rest of us actually don't see things clearly.
Bill wants building regulations drastically upgraded to make all new buildings zero carbon. But he'd rather persuade people to embrace the idea themselves.
We want people to come here not because it's a green project, not because it's low carbon, because it's just a wonderful place to be. And we have to win the argument because we actually genuinely design something better.
For Bill, continuing to build the old way doesn't just mean wasted energy. It betrays a state of denial, a refusal to face facts with consequences way beyond bricks and mortar.
Escapism is incredibly damaging and has a massive environmental impact. This is why we fight wars over fossil fuel, because people want to live in this escapist mode and they can't get to grips with what we actually need to do to get through this new century.
Bill is acting as well as thinking globally.
How's it going? Could we have a look at the overall city plan? What size stones are those turbines?
He's recently started working on more ambitious projects, designing entire zero-carbon cities on the other side of the world.
I mean, China's actually the real frontier of climate change. It's where the real difference is going to be made. If they adopt, with their massive population, if they adopt the kind of standards that we enjoy in the UK, it's the end. So it's far more important that we work with them to try and show that they can do low carbon cities or low carbon infrastructure than it is really to fight over little tiny projects in London.
Much of Bill's career so far has been spent fighting big battles over small projects. But he believes the very size of the problem will eventually lead to the solution.
I'm optimistic because we've got nowhere to go. There just isn't any alternative. We need to give ordinary people the tools, the demonstration that all these ideas work, and the hope that they can actually do something about these problems before it's too late. So that's the rush. We just don't have very much time. And the problem we see is that people only react when something bad has already happened. We don't want to get to a kind of New Orleans mentality. We can do something about it. We don't have to just wait for events to shape us. So we've caused the problem, we can also be the solution.